Hi,
super
Mrs.
neat
Ryan.
to see. Hello.
I know. Florins and Porsches.
Yeah.
Andrew and Chris and Porsche Talk. Hello there. Hi, Mrs. Ryan.
Hello.
Hello, everybody else. Welcome back. Tonight is Thursday, June 6, 2019. My name is Jay Ryan. This is Nicole Ryan. We are the Ryans, and this is It's Tonight's Show. Our guests this evening, as I have already said, are Andrew and Chris Florin, who are posting on Instagram as we speak. And it's Thursday night, Mrs. Ryan, which means we have our typical TBT.
Oh, good.
We've got some East Coast feeds to get through, and of course, what's going on. And then we'll get the Florins in here. So first off, I guess we'll just get right into it. If you have nothing, top of show.
Nothing top of show.
All right, let me bring it in here. It's a little cozier. There we go. Very nice. All right, TBT. It's Thursday, as we do every Thursday. We open up the old TBT. Roll it, Hal.
Nice, wasn't it? Make friends wherever we go. Angeles Crest, preparations, windows, fuel, air. That's what it is. All right, head it up.
I love you.
I love you too. Starting to get some early arrivals at Breakfast Club. We've got House is here, and Tyson from Motorsports. And we're waiting for Danny to open.
Altitude compensator under the seat. What's going on down here?
Well, stupid car just pulled out, but we got a little situation here. Yeah. Figure that out. They all leak. They all leak a little bit.
How was it, fellas? It was fun.
I don't know. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if I like the Hawaii music better or the whipped cream on Jose's pancakes at the end. I don't know. They both hit me right in the tickle spot.
Yeah, I caught myself dancing a little bit to the Hawaii music.
Yeah, on and on. This is our Friday show. Thursday for you, but Friday for us. We should also mention, too, we'll talk about it at the end of the show, but the Breakfast Club that's coming up tomorrow is going to be a big one. The 914 owners of the world apparently are going to be there. There's like 70 cars registered from this 914 rally thing. I don't know that they're all going to make it. I don't know that they're all going to attend the Breakfast Club. But it sounds to be a big deal, and I know some of our old school guys are coming that haven't been in a while and stuff. So it should be a good trip tomorrow.
Yeah, that's all I heard
Newcomb's
last
Ranch.
week.
The road's still not open, so you got to find your own way. It's pretty easy, but you just got to go around, and so it's a little bit longer. But it's worth it. I'll tell you that, it's worth it.
Just as pretty for passengers.
Yeah, very much so. I like that. I like this long way. I mean, I like that it's a few minutes shorter the regular way, but the way you have to go to get around is spectacular driving. There's no, we're not missing out on anything. That's for sure.
Right. It's not a detour down a freeway.
No, not at all. Does it feel that way to you?
No.
Yeah, no. All right. Let us check in now with Steve Kaz, Danbury Chive, and the East Coast Feed. Roll it, Hal.
You gonna think he on a podcast, man.
We are on a podcast.
Boy, turned down for what? We out here in City Field, May 25th, Rob Signo bobblehead night here with the 7-Line Army. We lead again. We win. We got Mikey D in the building. I got Steve Cavaliers. I got Brooke Long in the building. We not in Brooke Long, we're in Queens. But we out here, we drinking everything we can, have a good time. Everybody rock with us. Come have a good time. Make sure this video go everywhere, man. Listen, we die hard, City Field, Mets fans, man. Fuck with your boy, I'm out here.
Anyway, so that, as you can tell, Terrence is excited. We are underneath the Grand Central. That's right above us. And that's LaGuardia Airport behind us. We are at the Mets game because it's Saturday. We're rocking with the 7-Line. We got our beers. We got, look, boom. We got like a grill. We got a cooler with a bunch of piss water beers. But we're good. That's it. Want to share some love from Queens. Love you guys.
Wow.
Holy jeez, I love that guy. His energy is through the roof.
It's amazing to me, especially because, you know, there's this, we're out and about doing this whole thing with a bunch of people tailgating underneath the Grand Central Parkway in Queens. Holy smokes, which is right next to Citi Field. They're right next to the parking lot. Now let's see where they are just, I believe, the next night or only a couple nights later. Roll it out.
Mr. and Mrs. Ryan, East Coast Feed, coming to you from the mall. Daddy and daughter date night. There's us, there's Brooke back there. Right? Did we see a chicken today or a cow? We saw Sugar the cow. There he is. It's date night, right? That is Sugar. It's so much fun. You like riding the horsey? Moo. That was it. 20 cents in love from date night for Coraline and Daddy. Say bye to Jane Nicole. Bye, guys.
Wow.
She's the cutest.
It's nice to check in with that little girl.
Yeah.
All I can think, watching those two videos, is hashtag Shark Tank, hashtag balance. There's a guy who's got balance. He's out there doing the social things. He's taking care of his daughter, doing, you know, private things with her too. I mean, in public, but you know what I mean. Some daddy time.
He's figured out
time.
that part. It's awesome to see.
So impressive to me. Nobody else knows that guy, but I mean, like most of us when you're younger, you're just all over the place. And I just love what he's doing. He's become such a fantastic father, adult, human, you know. So proud he's my friend.
He's a good dude.
Yeah. With that, speaking of good dudes, it's time for this good dude to introduce this good dudette over here and ask the question that is on everyone's mind.
Dun, dun, dun. What's going on?
What's going on, Mrs. Ryan? Dun, 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 dun.
When dogs lick their lips, and yawn, it might be a sign of stress. So for everyone that brings their dogs to car shows, which I'm seeing a lot more of, heads up. There was a recent study done that monitored heart rates of dogs between owners, like family and strangers, and their hearts went up, and that's when they were licking their lips and yawning. So they give some
kind of
really
like humans too.
It sounded a lot
I'm
like
nervous.
people, infants,
dry, you know.
like what you do with kids, and it's like, don't touch their head. The eye contact might be jarring. Like, let them sniff you out and feel it out.
Getting a lot of nods from Andrew Florin over here.
I noticed. I think
he
he's
knows
a dog
what's up.
guy.
He agrees.
Yeah. So heads up on that. But separately, Tesla is adding a pickup truck to their fleet as they enter the mass market automotive arena.
Good time for an electric truck. Everybody's doing it.
Yeah, it's all the rage. And so this article, I'm super excited for them. I'm proud of them and Elon and the whole bit. My whole thing is it really comes down to what do you really want? And that's what everything is exploring, whether it's health or wellness or fun or whatever. And like, so the fact that they're touting this truck as like an F-150 that feels like a sports car, it's like, what do you really want? What are you using it for? So there's lots of options, and you can go electric if you want. Take a look around. Oopsie daisy.
What? What?
Whatever. Eat what you like is the name of the game now. There was a new study of like white meat, dark meat, and for a while, dark meat was like bad for you and whatever.
Well, that was when fat was bad for you too. You remember?
Yes, everything's well. There was a new study done because people were like, "But I like dark meat. Like, is it really that bad?" And so the new study introduced plant-based proteins also. And what they found once that was added in was it's not white or dark meat. It's like how much saturated fat are you really eating total?
Mm-hmm.
So take a look at it. But if you like dark meat, go to town.
I find it comes down to what you believe. If you want something and you don't believe that it's going to hurt you, it won't. You know what I mean? If you want to eat the entire box of Entenmann's donuts on Sunday,
go for it.
Go ahead. I mean, you're not going to do that every day, right?
Yeah.
If it's not a life choice, it's just a whatever. Don't beat yourself up about it. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that's what all this screams to me of. There's options everywhere. What do you really want?
Yeah.
If you want donuts, like you said,
believe it or not,
go
you
to
can
town.
have it, folks. You can have whatever you want if you put your mind to it. That's from Back to the Future, isn't it? Something like that. It's pretty similar.
Pretty similar.
But it's true. I fully believe that.
I do too. But lastly, this was so funny to me. I don't know why. But meteorologists in SoCal, I did not medicate today. Holy jeez, my words are messy. Meteorologists they thought it was a storm cloud passing through. They saw it looked like one. It went across the screen in SoCal, and they started predicting weather. And then someone on the ground was like, no, it's ladybugs. It's just a migration.
Yeah.
Have a gander. It was 80 miles by 80 miles, approximately.
I read the same thing, except that what that story didn't say is I combined that with another story I read yesterday, which was, you think there's a lot of ladybugs? They're not. These are some sort of crazy beetle that have come in that look like ladybugs. So I'm wondering if there's an 80 mile by 80 mile infestation of this blah, blah, blah beetle that isn't actually a ladybug.
Oh.
I don't know. It just happens to be the two stories were back to back day wise. So, but that's all I thought of when I read that story. Because something, I don't know, there's something so peaceful about ladybugs, even though they're still bugs, folks. You know what I mean? There's no difference. A ladybug, I'm sure, is a type of beetle.
I grew up with them being good luck, but yeah, they're probably
right,
just
but that's
beetles
something
and
we
gross.
put on it.
Proving your point, it was just how it was portrayed to me.
Yeah.
So I loved the story, but if they're beetles, ew.
No, it's all good. I mean, they're lovely. You know what I mean? No problems. I love ladybugs like everybody.
Get some spots.
And oh gosh, that's it. I was trying to say something. That's been what's going on. For me, ladybugs will always be that Rodney Dangerfield movie with the kid from
Soccer.
Sequest who passed away.
Jonathan Brandis.
Yeah,
I believe
good.
his name was.
Wow.
Loved that movie.
So when you don't medicate, you feel like shit, but your head's on apparently, because you just pulled out Jonathan Brandis, and I wouldn't have gotten that in a million
My
years.
words do not make sense, so it's hit or miss what comes out. But
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed it. R.I.P. Jonathan Brandis. What a weird thing. All right, let's take a quick break, shall we?
yeah.
Yeah, take a quick break. The Florins are going to be in here when we get back. Andrew and Chris, we're going to talk about Porsche. We're probably going to talk a little bit about Disney, probably a little bit about school and medical school, all sorts of stuff. Definitely a bit about art and Porsches, quite a bit. So the Florins will be in here right after this in those two chairs. More to come. See you in a few. All right, everybody good?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
With that, I think it's time. And we are back. Andrew and Chris Florin are here.
Welcome.
Hi,
you guys.
Florins.
Hello.
How are you guys? Thanks for
Good.
being
Good.
here.
Thanks for having us.
Let's see. Yeah, we got everybody on the shot there. Very nice. All right, good. Get straight to it. What the heck have you been up to? I saw you, I think, more recently was at Christmas time that we saw Chris at was it Lisa Taylor's, I can't remember what it was called though, but it was Michelin's and Mistletoe? Mistletoe and Michelin's, I think it was.
They come up with a
Something like
different
that.
name every year. Tinsel and something.
The barn, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
that was the last time we saw each other, had a brief conversation at the end.
Yeah.
But when was the last time I saw you, fella? Was it when you were here?
I honestly think it was when I was here last. Yeah.
Wow, and that was a while ago, right?
Yeah, that was before.
At least 6 months.
Yeah, when I'm trying to think, was it like a year ago now?
I don't know.
Must have been. It's
This-
all
I know
blurred at
the
this point.
studio looked
Yeah.
nothing like this. We were not as built out as we are
Yeah,
now.
it looks
Yeah.
amazing. He did a really great job.
Well, I wasn't fishing for
I
compliments.
know.
More
I
so
know.
as trying to find
But
a
I'm giving it to you.
timestamp.
I'm giving it to you.
How are you? How you been?
Oh,
You look
good.
fantastic.
Thank
you both
you.
look fantastic.
That's what my grandma said too. I appreciate that.
Well,
It's very kind. Yeah, things have been good. It's been a crazy year. Had
Are
all
you
of
out
my
of school now?
rotations. So I finished my third year of medical school.
Okay.
I finished it the night before Luftgekuhlt and my pediatrics rotation shelf exam.
So wait, you did end up going to Luftgekuhlt then?
Yeah, I got to
Because
photograph
I
for
remembered
them
you
again,
might not be
thankfully.
able to make it because of the whole thing, and then I think your dad said, no, he's booked
Yeah.
the flight and the whole bit.
Yeah, I was very lucky. Pat and Jeff and all of them were really kind to bring me out again, so I got to shoot on their behalf once again, which was awesome.
Fantastic.
So it was the perfect way to end third year. I kind of had that kind of ahead, just thinking about it the whole time.
This was your third year of medical school. Was it also your third year photographing the event?
No, so I went to all the other ones except for 2 and 3, but for number 4, I was just there as a fan.
Oh, okay.
And then for 5 and 6 were the
Okay.
ones that I got to shoot for them.
Gosh, that must be fun.
Very fortunate. I don't know why of all people they picked me, but grateful to have been a part of it. So
I think it might have something to do with you.
I
Take some
concur.
credit. Just say thank you.
appreciate it. I'll take it.
Well, you must be very proud then. 3 years
Absolutely.
in, he's an actual legitimate photographer for the Luftgekuhlt events,
Yeah.
meaning he's ingratiated into our community.
Absolutely. Jeff Zwart has
Just
really...
pull that a little bit closer to you. Just
Sure.
a little. There you go.
Jeff Zwart's been really happy with the photographic development that Andrew's been making, and had made a comment to me that he was really impressed with some of the vision that Andrew had and the different perspective, and it really kind of tied into the overall aesthetic that they were looking for to share as part of Luftgekuhlt. So
To help with the
he said it was kind of
Wow.
a natural for them to select Andrew as one of the photographers. So that was very nice to hear Jeff, of all people, tell me that.
Yeah, he's the best.
And-
Getting a
he's a-
photography compliment from
Yeah.
one of the best ones in the world
Yeah.
is always nice.
And
I'll
Jeff's
definitely
been
take it.
Yeah,
become
same
a-
here.
yeah, a
Anytime
long-
he says anything nice or makes a nice comment, it's just,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeff's become kind of a longtime friend since I first met him at Cars and Coffee Irvine way back in the day.
So that's how you go far that you
That's-
go back that far.
Yeah. I mean, it was really crazy. I had been watching, I think, Barry Maguire's TV show,
Yeah, I
Car
remember.
Crazy,
Sure.
and they talked about Cars and Coffee in Irvine. And up to that point, I had never attended one.
What year are we talking about?
Probably 2008.
Okay, I was going to it back then. It was still at the original location, or maybe at the second one, right?
It was at the Design Center in
okay.
Irvine.
This is
Um,
before or after the Mazda? It's probably before.
It was the Mazda
Oh, it
facility.
is? Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So that's when I first started going, and then I became a sort of a weekly participant. I got totally absorbed by that, and for me, also being involved in photography, it gave me a great creative outlet and a chance to meet a lot of the car Porsche community, who to this day have become good friends.
We should probably back up with you too whenever this part's done, because your Porsche history goes back very, very deep, and much further
Yeah.
than even I realized until we were talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So feel free to wherever you want to go.
All the way back, Daddy-o.
Yeah, I agree. Don't you? I mean,
Yeah.
I can start at the beginning.
There we
I
go.
grew up in Whittier, and rode my 10-speed bike everywhere through the hills and whatever. That was my transportation. And there was a neighbor roughly in 1966, I was 11 years old, who had a red 911. And I remember the first time seeing that car, it just blew me away.
yeah.
And I remember just seeing it, hearing it, just the whole experience made such an imprint.
Because it was so
on me.
different. Is that why? Because it was such a different vehicle than the other things you had seen.
Yeah, I mean,
it sounded different. It looked different.
I was just drawn to the shape and to the whole experience of that car. I mean, my grandfather, who was Swiss, had Mercedes-Benz, so I was used to being around those cars.
Mm-hmm.
But this was such a departure. It also was a German car, which I had kind of an affinity to, I think, genetically already,
Mm-hmm.
because my dad was also getting into Mercedes-Benz at that time. So I saw that car. I would be riding around and I would hear that exhaust note, and it's like, there goes that 911.
Yes.
So way back then, I had sort of decided my goal is going to be to own a 911 someday. So I started working and saving money and doing odd jobs in high school. Finally had enough money together.
In
And
high school.
Had talked
Lots
to
of paper routes.
I mean-
Lots and
I
lots
mean,
of paper
I had
routes.
This is
paper routes.
amazing.
I had set a goal that I wanted this, aspire to this car.
You're trying to talk around that instead of into it.
And so my grandparents were kind of on board with that as well. So instead of just buying me like T-shirts and underwear or something for Christmas, they'd give me money, and I'd bank it away.
Oh, so
and then
smart.
with the odd jobs and stuff that I do around the house for my parents, bank that money away.
All the allowances, all that stuff.
And then as I got older, I got a job at Arby's when I was like a junior in high school, and saved. And again, so by, I think it was the end of my junior year in 1972, I saw this silver 911 parked for sale at one of the local malls.
Yeah.
And went.
You mean just in the parking lot? Just
it
with
was
a sign in
parked
it?
out front, for sale sign in the front window. And I went, oh, this is too cool. And I went and checked it out, wrote down the numbers and stuff, and got home and told my dad about it. And he said, well, you know, you've been working hard and you've been doing okay in school. Let's go take a look at it.
Oh, wow.
So
you had somebody's support.
Long story short, we ended up test driving it. The money that I had, my dad matched.
Wow.
And I ended up buying the car.
Holy
so
smokes. This is the first one you looked at even, right?
Yeah. I mean, I had read about the cars. I kind of knew what they were. Voracious reader of Road and Track, Car and Driver, anything else that I could find, catalogs. I mean, I tried to become very self-educated as to the brand and the make of car.
Well, it sounds like you're immersing yourself in what is going to be your future almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think that's something we all have in common a little bit.
Yeah. Also, my dad was a neurosurgeon and very into technology and research and thoroughness of what you're going to do. And so he was very supportive of, again, on some Christmases growing up, as I got older and he started seeing this car interest, he'd give me a box of like Craftsman hand tools. So starting my tool chest and all of my acquisitions. And then at times would teach me, well, this is how you change spark plugs, and excuse me, this is how you do an oil change. So that educational process, by the time I had my 911, I could pretty much get in and kind of take that car apart and do stuff to it, which, 17 years old in high school, I mean, that was crazy.
Yeah.
But
what was that like in high school, driving a 911? Did you ever take it to school? Was that what you drove every day?
I drove it to school.
Bravo.
I had the only Porsche in school.
Unbelievable.
I mean, long hair and a nice mustache in the area as well.
I kind of got
early
down
70s
on
surfer
it.
style. We have photos.
Senior that had a Corvette.
Right.
And so, and then a lot of the guys were into muscle cars, so there weren't too many. There had been a guy.
The Porsche was always an odd choice, especially then, and especially for a kid.
Yeah, I remember when I was I think a freshman in high school, there was a senior that had a 912, and had it painted out. It was really cool. He had it lowered. I thought, this is so cool. And then he graduated, and then there weren't any Porsches. It was mostly Volkswagens, and there was a guy that had a Myers Manx that was
that's cool too.
An absolute beast, who later went on to become a very well-known builder of custom Volkswagen transmissions, Dave Foltz.
Oh, no
The guy
kidding.
used to terrorize the hills in Whittier in that Myers Manx. The thing was crazy.
No kidding.
Probably one of the fastest cars in Whittier. He went to our high school. Like I said, it was kind of weird.
Lucerna, for anyone wondering.
So that was sort of my foray into Porsches.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty early.
That obsession, as my wife calls it, has continued to this day to varying degrees. I had that car for 14 years. Finally ended up
That's a long time.
trading up. It was interesting because with the purchase of my 911 in '72, my dad and I would go out driving. And he got behind the wheel a bunch of times and said, this is actually a lot of fun.
That's how it
And
starts.
I could see the
That's how it starts.
gears going in my dad's head. And he said, I think I might like to buy a 911 of my own. And so one weekend I think it was probably mid to latter 1973, we went down to, he said, let's go test drive some cars. So we went to Buena Park, and there was a Porsche dealership down there, Park Porsche, that was right off the 5 freeway. And right next to it was House of Imports, Mercedes-Benz. Well, having been sort of a Mercedes convert, the first dealership we ended up going to was the Mercedes one. He said, you know what, just for comparison's sake, let's check out the 1973.
He's proper. Let's look.
The 450 SLs.
It would be irresponsible not to at least look.
Of course.
So,
gotta at least look.
Of course.
Ironically, we walked into the dealer. My dad said, I'm interested in test driving a 450 SL. And the guy goes, the salesman just took the demo, and this was around lunchtime, and we don't know when he's coming back. My dad went, oh, okay. So we turned around and we left. And as we're leaving, the guy's coming running after him saying, well, wait a second. And my dad said, no, you had your chance.
Yeah.
So Park Porsche
I'm with your dad on that one.
Park Porsche was like right next door. So we drove into Park Porsche. And that was a dealership that I had actually been taking my 911 to be serviced at. So they recognized us, and we knew the service manager, and he was a good guy. And so we walked in and talked to the sales manager, and he said, so what are you guys here for today? And my dad said, I'd love to test drive one of your 911s. I'm interested in buying one. And so the guy said, sure, hang on a second. So we ran back into his office. He came out, tossed my dad the keys, and said, that Aubergine 911 right here, that's our demo car. Go ahead, take it for a test drive, come back, we'll sit down and talk. So my dad gets in the car, and he's got this huge grin on his face, and he goes, let's go over to Carbon Canyon. He said, I'd like to put this
Feel it out.
Yeah, to test it. So we're out there, and he's
I agree with that,
blasting
right?
around in the car.
Naturally.
Yeah.
Having a great old time, and he goes, you know, I think this just sort of cemented the deal. So we turn around, we go back to the dealer, walk in, the guy goes, so how did it go? My dad said, I want to order a car. So he had been looking through like Time magazine and some of the ones.
Nice.
He was very interested in the Gemini Blue Metallic, which was
a darker blue?
No, it
Lighter
was
blue.
actually a lighter blue,
Okay.
very specific to 1973.
Okay.
And he said, I want to order 911 in Gemini Blue Metallic. And so the guy, we're sitting in his office, and he's keying in all of the availabilities. They couldn't find a Gemini Blue Metallic. He said, Dr. Florin, I'm afraid because this is so late in the year and they're starting the model shift, all the allocation and all the cars pretty much have been sold.
You'll either have to get something else or wait.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So he said, well, what are your next options? What are your color options? So my dad had said, well, how about silver metallic? And the third option was the gold, which is like Eric's car.
Like Eric Wilson?
Yeah.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah.
The number
Golden
45
ticket.
car. Golden ticket. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the best looking and driving Porsches I've ever experienced.
So he pretty much committed, and
And that's gold metallic, right? It's just called, or metallic gold or something? There's not a fancy name to it.
no, not
Yeah.
back in the day. So I'm thinking, okay,
Silver and
Dad's
gold.
going to buy a car. And he's starting to talk about specs and stuff, and
Nice reference.
he went for all of the S options on the car, but it wasn't an S. He said, well, I think I'd like to get a 911T. But I'd like the S options. And so the guy was showing him all of the different components. That was the chrome trim and the wheel wells, and it had all the S gauges and the S trim package, had factory air, had the I think it was the vinyl interior, it had sunroof, really
Sounds neat, yeah.
sweet spec car.
Sure.
This is kind of what I'm looking for.
Sure.
And so the guy says, okay, well, let us do a search, and we'll contact you in a couple days. And so lo and behold, probably midweek, the guy calls my dad back and says, Dr. Florin, we found a car, pretty much meets all of your criteria. It's up in Santa Barbara. So we have a car at the dealer that we're going to trade up to Santa Barbara. They're going to deliver your silver
Dealer swap.
911 down.
Ah, silver, okay.
So he ended up with the silver, and we should have it for you by the end of the week. So, unbeknownst to me, my dad gets all this information and plans to pick up the car, and the next morning he and my mom are off to Monterey for the weekend. And it's just like,
the right way to
Dad,
do
you're
it.
killing me.
Right?
You're killing me. So my grandparents come over, stay with me and my younger sister for the weekend. And they go off in the brand new car.
Wow.
So he had that car up until 1986.
Holy smokes, that's a great story. But you did have two silvers for a while, yours and
Mine,
his.
my silver 911, his silver 911, and then in, what was it, 74 or 75, my younger sister got the Porsche Bug.
The whole family? Are you
Forgot about
kidding
that.
me?
So she,
I knew
Totally
you
forgot
in
about that.
generations. I didn't realize both sexes and everything.
she ends up finding, it was a 73 914 2-liter that a guy had customized and had painted the front spoiler, the roof, and sort of the B-pillar component, all body color, and it was a pearlescent blue, and it had a molded in rear spoiler.
Okay.
And my sister looked at that and went, oh, okay. And so my dad helped her out a little bit, and she ended up with that. So she had that in college.
Holy smokes.
So we had 3 Porsches in the
That's
household at
enough.
one point.
That is so stinking cool.
Yeah.
For 3 different people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, that's so wild.
Yeah.
Yep.
Spinning some of the other stuff off, the very first date that my wife and I went on was a Porsche Club rally up across Mulholland in my 66. And partway on the rally, we're cranking through the turns and stuff, having a great old time. The seat mechanism in the passenger seat popped, and all of a
So
sudden
she's off the track.
all of a sudden my wife's like,
Oh!
going forward, and it's like something just happened. So when we got to the first stop, I had to get out and jimmy the mechanism, which it was just the spring loading,
Oh, it's just
Had-
the seat back.
the seat back.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, not the whole
Not the
seat.
whole
entire
I was-
bolted
I-
in.
I just-
No, no.
I wasn't sure.
It was just the seat back.
Yeah, sure.
So that sprung
as a
forward.
passenger, you don't know.
Yeah.
So unfortunately,
not
I
thinking
think
that.
that was kind of for my wife, the first taste of negative Porsche experiences.
But luckily, it was on the first impression.
Yeah. But we had a great time, a long day. My parents were also on the rally in their silver 911. Ironically, one of the photographers within the club at that time had gotten a shot of my car with us in it, and it ended up being the cover shot for the next month's issue. So my wife,
For the PCA magazine
yeah,
or
for
whatever?
the
Oh,
LA
gosh.
region,
Wow.
way back in, what was it, 74? So my wife has that in a scrapbook at home.
Of course.
Here's Dad and I on the
It's kind of
Mountain
awesome.
Goat Rally.
Oh yeah.
So
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now you can
Because
kind of get
it's,
us.
my mom had commented one time that she said there's something kind of magical about you and Porsche. There's this intertwined connection,
Yes.
and it keeps happening. And so
It's in your DNA.
it started showing up in Andrew
a little bit. Just a
with-
little bit.
initially, and now it's grown. And we're also now, as Andrew was sharing earlier, starting to see that with my oldest son. He's kind of coming around, and he's got this new
He
passion.
just sent us a text of a Miami Blue GT3 RS. Anyone out there has those ready to sell them?
Saying
brother
that
now.
was his dream car. Saying
Yeah.
that was his dream car. He
Oh
wanted
yeah.
one, you know,
And he's a very
work
he's a very
towards that
motivated
goal.
individual.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he'll make that happen.
You guys both seem so surprised. Like it came out of nowhere that
Yeah,
he wanted
it
this car.
was.
So it's
was a total
crazy
shock.
your history.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's so
I mean,
cool.
It's funny.
as Andrew had also shared, my oldest son loves to sort of push the envelope and sort of fight convention. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
from the standpoint that my growing up using Nikon cameras with my dad then becoming a Leica convert, so then I got all the Nikon gear. Andrew, as he got a little bit older, getting into the Nikon gear. My oldest son, Christian,
practical. Made sense.
started off, my
I
dad
could already see where this was going.
infusing him
Immediately.
with Nikon gear as well, and bought him one of the earliest Nikon digital cameras. And Christian, I think at that point, really started absorbing photography, and he's now a professional photographer.
Wow.
So,
But
but
he's creative director for Fu Manchu Company, but he does a lot of photography on the side too.
Creative director of Fu Manchu?
Of a woman's shoe company.
Oh, of a
yellow
woman's
box.
shoe I was like, wow.
A Fu Manchu as well. You know. He probably does.
Buddy,
You never
kicks
know.
ass with that thing, I'll tell you.
He would crush it. Yeah. He'd totally do it.
Yeah. So when the time came and he sort of went a much more professional level, he said, I don't want to shoot Nikon. I'm going to shoot Canon.
Yeah.
Just to sort of piss us all
Yeah,
off.
I saw that coming.
And I mean,
Just get a rise.
it is what it is. He's done quite well. Canon's taken very good care of him, and
Oh, good.
he's done some amazing work. So
Yeah.
my wife
And he's going to get a GT3 in Miami Blue one day.
Exactly.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
With your family's history and your dedication and focus, I have no doubt about it that will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I'm sure you're getting a sense of why. I think at the 40 fast years from the celebrating the 911 that he won the contest for Porsche. That
You did?
he submitted an essay and it won for Porsche, and they flew us out to Rennsport 2 in Daytona Beach. We were there at a whole dinner with Jackie Hicks, Derek Bell, all the
Oh
famous
my
race car
goodness.
drivers. Hurley Haywood was there, and just it was celebrating, commemorating part of his essay that he wrote explaining why the 911 was meaningful to him.
Wow.
So I'm
And it
sure you
was
can kind of get a sense
basically
of why.
kind of the story that I had just shared about my passion for Porsches and seeing them at a very early age and being dedicated and vowing that someday I would aspire to owning a 911 and being able to do that, and that the passion has sort of continued, and that was at the point where Andrew started going to more car shows with me. And
How old were you at that point? How long ago would that have been?
I off and on I went to stuff because I remember going to German Auto Fest in Ventura and different events
Yeah.
through high school and when I was younger, and we would go to the LA Auto Show as kids and a contest to grab as many brochures as you could and
Sure,
stuff like that.
Of course.
So at
Fill
that
your bag.
point, exactly, you
Like
had
trick or
to.
treat,
yeah. It's at that point you understand kind of the general idea of it. You think, oh, this is cool, but as a kid, you're off in a billion different places. You don't know what you want.
No
and
focus.
so it really wasn't until I had left and gone to Chicago that the bug truly hit me. I was just walking to and from and taking public transit.
So was it maybe being away from it?
I think so.
Yeah.
It makes you appreciate it. I think
Yes.
it makes me appreciate Los Angeles a billion times more in general too.
Absolutely.
Especially after this past winter.
It's perspective.
Exactly. And so
Good for you.
that's kind of what brought me around to it fully. And now I can't shake it off.
Well, we should talk about some of the stuff because, of course, you came bearing gifts just like last time. And I
'Cause you're awesome.
think,
Oh, thanks.
there we go. I think this is, let's get a shot of that there. Oh. This is, I thought this was your drawing, but I think
I
now
wish.
we found out today that this might be Chris's drawing.
that was
Yes.
a sketch that I had done way back in the day. Also kind of a carryover from working off hours with my buddy Chuck Miller.
Mutual friend.
Yeah.
That's the Chuck connection.
I don't know if
It all
Chuck
comes
had...
around.
This is beautiful. Thank you.
Of course.
Wonderful. And this same image, you can't see it at home. I don't know what camera we're on, but the same image is actually up here in the studio as well.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Chuck Miller. Let's talk about. I'll talk about Chuck Miller for days. I love Chuck Miller.
my buddy from Walt Disney Imagineering, both Chuck and I had worked there for many, many years. Chuck's now retired from Disney. I'm still there. But when I first had started in 1988, I had my sort of digressing a little bit back
Sure.
to the Porsche timeline. My dad had the 1973 911, so in 1986 he decided he was going to upgrade. Really liked the new Carreras,
Oh, okay. The 3.2s. Gotcha.
and so I think it was late '85, sort of early '86. He decided I'm going to pull the trigger and I want to get a new car. So he was going back and forth about, do I want to get a whale tail? Do I want the spoilers? My mom would chime in, oh, I think the spoiler's cute. And my dad's like, that's not what I want to hear. What do you think?
Yep.
And it's like, Dad, go for the spoilers. And so at one point, my cousin was living in Germany with her husband, who was in the Air Force as one of the flight instructors, I believe, over there. And they had reached out to my dad and said, there's a guy on base that's sort of sourcing, at the time, gray market
Sure.
Porsches.
That was
My-
common
and-
at the time too.
Yeah, and
Very common in the 70s.
my dad had
In the
one of
80s.
the anesthesiologists that he worked with frequently had got an '85 Cabriolet from a similar group in Germany. So my dad thought, well, maybe I'll do a Carrera through a similar venue. So they reached out. My dad put together a spec list, had given my cousin a deposit. They met with the guy on the base and potentially had placed an order for a Carrera. Unfortunately, it turned out that this particular individual on the base was a crook.
Yeah. That was very common with those gray market
Yeah.
cars.
So
Oopsie-daisy.
fortunately, the base, I guess, had enough other military personnel that were trying to work with this guy that they kind of stepped in, was my understanding, and legally got everybody's money back.
Great.
So my dad
That's
got the money
amazing.
back, and he said,
That's amazing.
Okay.
That didn't usually happen.
Yeah.
in
That never
gray market scams.
so no gray market. So my dad started shopping around and wasn't in a horrible hurry, but wanted a new Carrera. So he hit a bunch of different dealers.
And forgive me if you said this. This is replacing the 73, right?
This
The
would be
silver
replacing the
73.
73, which
Okay.
as soon as I heard that,
Yeah.
it's like, again,
Wait a second,
I
Dad.
had grown up around that car. I absolutely loved that car. I thought this is my venture into the potential of creating my own Carrera RS.
Yes.
Because it was a 2.4 liter motor.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it was a late 73 and a half 911,
it's
so it
already
had the CIS,
changed. Right, right.
which I come to find out from the mechanics, that's not really a high-performance derived motor. If you had the mechanical fuel injection, a much better candidate. So I thought, shoot. But it was still a cool car.
Sure.
So I was able, with a little bit of regret, to sell my 66 911 after 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
Hurts.
I
Hurts.
bought the 73 and enjoyed that car. My dad ended up getting the 86 Carrera, and the story of his acquisition of that car was amazing as well, and how things just sort of fall into place.
Yes.
He had gone to Meister Porsche Audi in Garden Grove,
Okay.
which is no longer there, but back in the day, it was one of the bigger dealerships, and they had this 86 911 Carrera Coupe, Grand Prix white, black leather interior, no sunroof, had the front and rear spoiler, had the Bilstein sport suspension, short shifter.
Ooh, all the stuff.
It had the
all the
sevens.
stuff.
It had polished 7s and 8s Fuchs by 16s on it.
I love the polish too.
Very cool car. And it turned out that the car had been a special order through that dealership. And the car came in, and the owner refused delivery because, for some reason, the sunroof that he had spec'd didn't
Didn't make it on the check
materialize
sheet,
on that
right? So
car.
it had no sunroof.
So no sunroof.
So it's desirable
was
to
like,
us,
no
but
deal.
not to that guy. Sure.
And so
Can't imagine.
the guy said to my dad, shared that story, and my dad said, you know what? I don't need a sunroof. So they sat
Practical
down,
guy.
Start
talked
doing a deal.
numbers,
Yeah.
and my dad came home with that car.
Put it together. Beautiful.
So
Mm-hmm.
that sort of sealed that deal.
Now, you've just upgraded from a 66 to a 73.
73.
Even though they are similar and they're the F-body, they really are different cars. The wheelbase is different. They drive different.
Yeah.
So you've upgraded. You've stepped
Yeah.
up. And now your dad's doing the same thing. Are you both eye to eye on this, or are you both? Is anyone having any regrets? Is everyone happy? How are
Everybody was happy.
I'm trying to think if there's ever a case where you're going to get the 3.2 and he wants the 73 back.
No.
Okay.
He was of the mindset that this was his car. He loved it.
Yeah.
He
You know what I mean, though, right? The 3.2
Oh, yeah.
is so much more refined if you're used to the race car. Even
Well,
if you race and spec it out, it's still so
yeah.
soft in comparison.
As my dad
Yeah.
got older, he had sort of chronic back trouble,
Oh.
which
so this is a
ironically
good
for a
thing.
neurosurgeon wasn't the best kind of malady because of all the long surgeries of standing up and all. So that led to sort of a degraded spinal condition. So he'd had multiple
this.
Yeah, he was
multiple
chronically bad
surgeries
Yeah.
with the stainless rods in his back to stabilize his spine.
Yeah. I need that.
So
We all should.
posture
We all do
right
now.
now.
We're all standing up.
he was happy actually to upgrade, because one of the other sort of negative components to the 73 was the CIS airbox was prone to blowing up, and he had a couple instances where he was like having to get to a hospital,
Oh my
and
goodness
the
gracious.
airbox blew up on him. And so he sort of got stranded. So in a way, he was glad to pass that on to me.
Right. That also
But-
goes against the whole reliability of the Porsche and
Yeah.
the whole thing. So that's kind of luckily it was a small gap.
But within the Porsche community, they had already troubleshooted how to
Figured it
fix
out.
it. And they came up with a little, what looked like a toilet pop-off valve. It was basically a blow-off valve. You would take a hole saw and drill a hole into the bottom of the airbox, and you'd epoxy the little flapper valve. So if you got a backfire into the airbox,
It would escape.
It would relieve the pressure. It wouldn't blow up your airbox.
Right.
So every so often you'd hear this pop, and the thing would clap back, and you go, okay.
That would have been.
That saved me right there. So
Wow.
we ended up
That's
retrofitting
crazy.
that to the car before he ended up selling it to me, so it was already in there.
Beautiful.
He knew what he was doing.
Beautiful.
Way to go, buddy.
Well done.
So, yeah.
I'd be happy to take the 73 off your hands, but there's a few things I noticed it's going to need. Let me go down the list here, Dad.
So I had
we're
that car. I had the privilege of owning that car for actually 3 years, up till, what was it, 89? And then my wife says, we're expecting another baby.
Oh.
And so up to that point, my wife was driving a little Honda Accord hatchback, and I had the Porsche. So we had two small cars. My oldest son at that point was already 5 years old, so managing one kid in the small cars was okay. We could do it. But
Yeah,
she
it's
said,
just tough.
with another baby on the way, we're going to need a bigger car. And I'm,
Even as
Could-
much as this kills me, I have to agree. I'm kinda
could we
like,
do
oh.
something
know.
with 4 doors? And so I'm thinking, well, what do we want to get? My brother-in-law had a 240 DL Volvo, and we'd seen, I mean, he had
Those are great cars,
two
too.
kids at that time as well. Very durable, well-built cars.
Yeah.
Thought,
Safe for the family.
let's look at the Volvos. So I went out to the...
He's dying inside. You're dying a little
Yeah,
bit
that
inside.
was
I
all
can
my
see it.
fault. I did it
can
to myself,
see it.
I guess. I don't know. That was out of control.
So I went to the Pomona swap meet with the car, had it all cleaned and polished up and stuff. And
Ready
my
to
wife,
say goodbye.
My wife's like, where are you going? I said, to the swap meet. And she said, for what? And I said, well, I'm looking at selling the Porsche. And
Bring
she
in the
said,
pink slip, yeah.
no, you're not. And I said,
Oh.
Yes, I am.
see.
We unfortunately need a bigger car, and this is going to bring us, the most cash to be able to put you in a new car. So I'm at the swap meet, and a couple of gentlemen walk up, and they're circling the car, and they kind of look at it, and they wander off, and I'm talking to other people there, and these two gentlemen come back, and they're looking at the car. One of them appeared to be a Japanese businessman, and would talk in very hushed tones to this other gentleman. They came back a third time and said, my client here is interested in your car. Would you take this amount of money for it? And I said, no, that's a little too low. And so they wandered off, and lo and behold, come back a little bit later. What about this? No, it's still too low. It's not what I need.
Yeah, I appreciate it, but
Yeah. And I mean, the car was just like pristine. And so finally they wandered back, and he said, how about this, which was my asking price? And I said, okay, I'm cool with that. So
Playing it cool the entire
Seriously,
time.
I mean,
Seriously.
right?
he gives
Yeah.
me, he says, well, come here. So the guy's got like this little satchel with him.
Oh my gosh.
And he says,
It's real.
my client is here buying like 6 Porsches today, and I would need you to deliver your car down to our hotel that's down by the port of Long Beach.
Oh, because he's gonna ship it, right?
And
Yeah.
he said, I am, a committed buyer. I'll give you $500 cash as a deposit. So we seal the deal. And I said, okay, that's cool. So he opens up his little satchel, and he pulls out a stack of, $100
Buckaroos.
bills. And
Sure.
here you go.
Bird dogs.
It's like, wow, okay. So I get on the phone, and I call my wife and said, you're never going to believe this, but I just sold the Porsche. And she's like, nah, you're kidding me, right? And I said, no, I'm dead serious. I just sold it. And she said, you sure? And I said, yeah, I just sold it. So it's like, this is what I got to do. I'm going to swing by my dad's house, and then I'll be home. So I call up my dad and tell him, and he said, Now, wait a second. The guy gave you $500 cash as a deposit, and he wants you to deliver the car with the pink slip and everything else to a hotel in Long Beach,
A little shady.
and he will pay you
The rest then.
the rest, the balance when you get there? And I said, yeah. He said, okay, hang on a second. So my dad had some friends within the Whittier Police Department that, I don't know if they had been patients of his or whatever. So he called up one of them and told the
Loyal
guy
friends, it sounds like.
told the guy the scenario that was presented to us. And the guy said, it could honestly be legit, but these are the measures that you should take to protect yourself and not to get into a sketchy situation where they hold you up at gunpoint and steal your car.
Right.
So
just
Casually.
yeah. So we took precautions. My dad went with me, and we drove down there. And lo and behold, we come to find out that this businessman comes over like twice a year at that time, buys up a container full of Porsches and takes them back to Japan.
Yeah.
And so the guy,
I've met people like that, so I totally
I mean, it
believe
was
that it's...
mind-blowing. So we're sitting in the room talking, and the guy said, he absolutely loves your car. So he goes over, and there's a briefcase sitting on the bed. He opens it up, and there are stacks of bound $100 bills
Right out of the
in his
movies. Yep.
suitcase.
You
And I thought,
Wow.
man, that's the most money I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And peels it off and brings over this stack of bound hundreds to me and says, okay, here you go. Starts counting them off and put them in a briefcase. My dad's got that, and sign over the pink, and
done deal.
with a little bit of chagrin, okay, the 911's off to a new home.
Yep.
And yeah.
How was that drive? How was that drive back? I'm assuming you came back with your dad, and
He was.
I can see it on your faces, but how was it at the time?
I said, that was really difficult, Dad, because I had great aspirations for that car. And he said, well, this is growing up.
Oh, parent.
So
Practical guy.
Yeah.
Through and through.
So welcome, Andrew.
But also knowing that you would get another one
Yeah,
day.
so,
This is temporary.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
This
I was
is
in
chapters,
between
right?
Porsches
Chapters in life.
for a few
Exactly.
years, and then
Did you end up getting the Volvo? What'd you end up getting?
we
Yeah.
ended up buying
White
a
240.
rare four-door 240 DL Volvo
A coupe, not the wagon.
No.
Cool.
We had bounced
Nice.
back and forth between the wagon. In hindsight, maybe the wagon would have been a cooler purchase, but my wife liked the four-door,
I like the wagon myself, but these days the four doors get more attention at like a car
Yeah.
coffee or whatever.
and the one rare option that we had, and the dealer was kind of surprised that we were as excited about it, was a manual 5-speed transmission.
Oh, that's great.
And that we drove that thing all
Everywhere.
over.
Those are the
Remember
Volvos
the road
that
trips in
lasted
that thing?
forever.
Yeah.
Forever. Wow. So how long did you have that car?
We had that car
Just
up
'cause I'm a
until
nerd.
2000.
See? There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
11 years.
And then ironically, one of the designers that I worked with at Imagineering was looking for a car, and we sold it to her.
Ugh, isn't that the best?
So
Yeah,
yeah.
I can still picture just the texture of the seats, the headrests.
You remember,
All the
right? The
things.
holes in the headrest.
Oh
and all
yeah,
that,
like
you
the
see
two, like
through
the
'em.
slats.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's so wild. I think as a kid, I don't know, just something about you're a
Yeah.
kid you can't see anyway. So when you can see through something that you can't,
Oh,
usually
yeah.
it's kind of neat.
It's nice.
What about you? What's going on with you?
I mean,
When are you going to get, your car going?
so it's getting closer. I feel like the 912 market, because I'm really interested in like an early 912, like a
Yeah.
66 or 67, and the market is finally starting to stabilize a little bit.
Yes,
So like for
we've
the
noticed
past
that
few
too.
years, I've been watching it, just kind of depressed. Like every year, I just see it climbing.
It'll never
and climbing
happen.
and
It'll never
climbing.
happen.
Yeah,
It's
like
getting
really-
further and further
Like thanks,
away.
medical school. Way to go. So that was my approach to it. But now
This
they're
is
like
growing up.
exactly. Yeah, should have had Grandpa's voice in the back of my head. But now it's getting close. I'm 1 year out from graduating. It's kind of the process of really thinking about how can I find the right one. I feel like I've been fortunate with everything with Instagram and all that random stuff that I've gotten to know a lot of great people that have a lot of
Very much
912s,
so.
and I feel like that'll definitely help. I hope.
You're in the thick of it. You're in the heart of the community here. I mean, there's so many 912 builders here,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
goodness sake. And you're friends with all of them.
Yeah.
So
Very fortunate for
I
that.
feel
Yeah.
like
So
once
hopefully
it's
it'll
time,
happen.
You'll be able to find a car. That
Yeah.
won't be a problem.
And I'm definitely just looking for something that is like mechanically sound that can look like crap, but it'll get me from the hospital and back. Something that I can work on that'll be fun.
Right.
And kind of like
sounds
what we
like
talked
your dad. This is generational here.
Exactly.
This is crazy.
Exactly. And it's like going back to like what we had talked about, I think, last time, of just wanting to contribute to the community.
Yes.
I feel like my way of trying to enter the community was one for someone who doesn't own a car, but just wants to be a part of it. And so like that, like the photos are like my way of trying to be part of it and then just getting to know everyone. But I'm hoping that then it'll kind of transition into even more fun, obviously.
Well,
Just
it
get to
will. I
tinker
think
on
you're
it
doing it
and-
the right way of actually ramping up. You know what I
hope
mean?
so,
You're
yeah.
going to appreciate it that much more, hopefully. Gosh, I can't. I'm trying to think. I can't wait till you're coming up to Breakfast Club. You know, when you're in
That'd be
town
amazing.
and stuff. That's going to be really fun.
That would be a lot of fun. And
What are you
hopefully
going to do to your car? Like I'm trying to. I want to help you visualize this even tighter. Let's get into another.
We were talking about that last night actually at dinner. It's hard to say.
I
'cause
don't
feel like we've
believe that you
seen-
don't have some of this stuff worked out.
Well, like it partially depends on the canvas that we start with. I guess
Okay.
it depends on what
Say
the
you
state
got
of the
your
car
66
is.
that's clean enough and it's in good shape.
Yeah.
Call it a driver.
Probably subtle details, I think, to start with. Maybe like exterior work, because hopefully the engine will be like a 1.6, maybe eventually to a Benton twin
yeah.
spark,
Oof, yeah.
depending on how
Crazy.
residency goes and all that. But I
Again,
think,
having friends is a very nice thing.
exactly. Kind of just like little details here and there. Like if you watch the 2-liter cup that's going on through Europe,
Yeah.
kind of all the details in like Historica 911. Like they just worked on an Aga Blue. I think it was a 66 as well that they were tricking out. Aga Blue is my favorite vintage color. And so even if the car that I find isn't Aga Blue, we were talking about just little details, kind of like faint, like nose paint or some subtle
Sure.
stripes or something. Just kind of be like a nod to it.
Of course.
That'll look cool.
I knew you had some of
yeah.
this stuff worked out.
Definitely been thinking about it.
But you'll probably, not unrestored, you'll keep whatever patina is there,
Yeah.
kind of just whatever the age
Yeah, I think the
car
provenance
has.
of the car is cool. I think knowing
Provenance,
kind of
right.
where it came from, who owned it before you, not just like a blank transaction that you're doing, but something that you're getting to know the people that owned it before. I like the idea when you hear people like taking the previous owners for a drive or finding like those original owners and then taking them out and comparing old photos versus the new, and
I
the stories
absolutely
kind
adore
of
that
come
stuff
from it.
as well.
Yeah.
VW for Life, Tory Alonso, same thing. You know, he bought a Beetle with the agreement, or the Porsche, whatever, with the agreement that, we'll give the woman a ride or whatever. I just adore those stories because they
Yeah.
end up working out. Even Wheeler Dealers did a couple episodes like that where, all right, well, make sure you bring it back to me first. And something about that, you're right. It's not, it has meaning. It's one of their kids and whatever.
Yeah, you appreciate that the car isn't entirely yours even when you own it. Like it has
Ooh,
something
nice.
that's kind
That's
of
a good
entirely
perspective.
separate.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
are just the stewards, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so
Yeah,
wild.
the current caretaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that how you feel still?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think there's a lot of sort of sentimentality, but also it's cool to know that the family history. And I think for me, some of the responses that we got back from Luftgekuhlt, I am still to this day blown away by the generosity of Jeff Zwart.
Oh.
And we, as I think Andrew might have
Love that
mentioned,
guy.
we got there early, 5 a.m. Saturday morning.
We
Right
pulled
across
up.
the
We pulled
street
up
here.
first, and then we saw Jeff passing by at the back lot.
Yeah.
Like, I think we're here at the right time.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
So we got in. I fortunately had been accepted as display parking, so the car was already in the show. And Andrew had walked over to Jeff and said,
Oh, you put the car in the night before? Is that
no,
what you mean?
that morning.
Oh, okay.
Because I normally was supposed to show up around 8 or 9 that morning and then be placed into the show or whatever. So by getting there early, Andrew had walked over and told Jeff, we're here early. I'm going to start getting some shots, but we're curious, where do you want my dad to park the car? And Jeff said, I've got a very interesting potential spot for you. Please, I'll take you over there, show you the spot. Let me know if you're okay with that. If not, then we'll move you to a different spot. So, under the cloak of darkness, we're following Jeff through the back lot, and he walks down this little corridor and back alley, and the Bisimoto 935 was parked to one side, and there's at the very end of this alley, there's this huge super graphic on the wall. And Jeff goes, I'm going to put you right here, and just sort of has me position the car. And it's like, no, move it a little bit more this way and come forward. And he said,
lining you up with his background or whatever, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Framing
and I'm
the
not,
shot.
He
I'm not
knew.
seeing,
He had already seen it.
Yeah, we're not seeing what he's framing
seeing,
us
right,
against.
Right.
So he says, "Okay, right there, stop." And so he said, "You sure that you're cool with this?" I said, "Oh, absolutely." Well, it turned out that became like such a destination and a photo op for so many people.
It was hidden. It was like a little kind of like special spot where a lot of people weren't necessarily walking past it. Mm-hmm. So whoever went there typically got the backdrop with the car by itself almost every single time.
So cool.
And so it was like a nice little kind of
That's
hidden
awesome.
gem.
Started showing up all over Instagram. It's like, and it's always weird for me as a photographer. I normally don't ever shoot my car, but to see my car popping up on different sites and seeing people comment about the backstory. I mean, the fact that our Carrera has been in the family since new. It's still the original motor. I've got, 227,000 miles on it, and the thing still goes like a champ.
It's immaculate.
Wait, so we maybe skipped over something. So is this your dad's car that
It
you
was
have?
the white Carrera.
So
It
did we
continued
get,
on
we didn't
eventually.
Get to that. All right, so we got to the part where your dad bought that and you bought the 73.
Yeah, so
how did you end up with that car?
My dad retired late '97, and from the day that when he brought that car home for the first time, I was over there that evening, and I had told him, I was just blown away. It was such a cool car. If you ever get around to selling this, please put me on the top of the list. He said, "Oh, absolutely." And, I never thought I would see the day that would happen, but I at least put it out there.
And you polished it in anticipation for years.
I was the mechanic doing
You got a bond, right?
oil changes.
One day you will
and-
be mine.
It's like this. They're besties by the end of it.
Yeah, oil changes and detailing, and every so often he'd throw me the keys and let me drive it, because at that point I was in between Porsches.
Right.
So that sort of kept me connected. The car was being maintained by our buddies at Andile.
Oh, beautiful.
All of our 911s had been through the Andile shop at one point or another.
That's his work move as well.
And we had gotten to be good friends with all those guys. And over time, both my dad and I had been fortunate enough on occasion to shoot at the IMSA races for Andile or for some of the teams that Andile built motors for. Oh, so we had, at one point had shot for the late Al Holbert with the Lowenbrow team, got to be friends with Jim Busby, and early on had shot a bunch of stuff for him. And then also when he was doing the Porsche 956s and 962s with B.F. Goodrich.
Okay.
Shot those cars. So, it's been a very interesting sort of interconnectivity within the Porsche community and all these different people, and just weird little obscure references. So, getting back to my dad and the Carrera, he called me up out of the blue one day in '98 and said, "So are you ready?"
Only a year later?
After
Wow.
he retired.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Nice.
ready for what? And he said, "Well, I went out in the garage, got in the Carrera to drive it somewhere, and the battery was dead. So he said, I've realized I'm not driving the car enough." And he said, "I think it's time to pass it on to you."
Wow.
So I ended up buying the car from my dad. So he was out of sort of his perspective a fun car for a while. And we all went to the LA Auto Show in 1999, and he's thinking, okay, I'm out of Porsches. I want something fun to drive again. What do we look at? So all of a sudden he starts gravitating towards the Audi TT.
I knew you were going to say that because that was the year that it was at the auto show. I knew you were going to say that.
That Freeman Thomas.
So
That Freeman Thomas, yeah.
We circled that stand multiple times looking at that car, and he goes, "This is really cool." So,
And it was just the concept at the time, right? It wasn't the I mean, the one they made looked just like it.
Yeah.
because I think at the time they still had that small little quarter window as not
the-
glass,
on the
but
coupe.
as part of the body.
Yes.
Which was still very cool. So 2000 rolled around, and he goes, "I'm tired of going out in the garage, and your mom's gone. I want to go to the hardware store. I don't have a car to do anything with." So he said, "I'm going to go look for an Audi TT." So he hits up all the dealers.
And they're brand new at the time, and they
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
impossible to
It
get.
was before they even had that little rear spoiler that they kind of added after. Just like
because
the
they had to.
Yeah.
Yes,
So-
of course. I remember all of this.
He makes the foray to all of the different dealers, and at the time you couldn't find those cars.
No.
And if they had them, they wanted a huge premium on top of the sticker price.
Was everything out at the time, or is this, they only had the 180 horsepower one out at first, and
It
then
was-
the Roadster came out after, all that stuff?
It was just the
coupe.
entry coupe,
Okay.
which was the turbocharged 180 horsepower
Yep, 2+2.
variant. Yeah, so
Thanks to Monique Thomas.
he ends up going to, like I said, to a bunch of the dealers, and they're trying to nail him with dealer markup. And he said,
Oh, premiums.
you know what, I don't need the car that bad. So he would go to another dealer and talk to him, and all of a sudden they'd throw this, dealer upcharge at him, and he said, no, I don't need it. So he went up to Rusnak in Pasadena and talked to the sales guy there for Audi. And the guy said, you know what, we can work with you. What are you interested in? And my dad pretty much told him I'd like, TT Coupe, silver, black leather interior. I'd like Quattro.
Sounds like the
And-
auto show car.
So the guy said,
That's the launch car, yeah.
okay, we can hook you up. So he put a deposit down, and my dad ended up getting one of the first TT Quattros in Southern
so
California
cool.
through Rusnak. And the guy, bless his heart, at Rusnak said, we're more concerned about making and developing a relationship with the client as opposed to trying to hit you with these huge upcharges.
Long
So
game versus short game, yeah.
Yeah, so my dad was happy as a clam. He got the car, routinely had it serviced up at Rusnak, and maintained that
Yeah, they got their money.
relationship
They
with
got
the
their
guys.
money. I mean, that's how you
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
That's
And so,
mutually beneficial.
jumping way forward, that car is currently my daily driver.
Come
It's,
on!
it's sitting outside. It's what
You're
I learned to drive
kidding.
stick on.
Oh, I
No
love
way.
It's
that
what I-
car.
it's what I like
It's one of
to
my all-time
car
favorite
canyons
cars.
with.
Yeah,
How
when
cool.
when my dad developed Alzheimer's before his passing,
It got less cool, I'm sorry.
I was talking to him and said, Dad, you got the TT in the garage. What are we gonna do with it? And
It's
he
so
said-
hard for a comedic person to not
Yeah.
jump in here left and right. I do? What?
So
Go ahead.
he was
It is
kind
amazing.
enough,
It's an amazing car.
and it was one of the few times that he cut me a huge break and said, I know
It's
you'll
tough.
take care of the car. You've helped me with the car. You're a gearhead by nature.
And I've sold every other car I've ever owned to you.
I will. Yeah, I will
Exactly.
And your
give you
Yeah.
the
Just throw it
TT.
in.
So
Just
he
throw
gave
in.
it to me,
Wow.
and that
Oh,
was literally like up to that point. My dad was a real hard nose. That was probably one of the few things that he had ever given me. So I have that kind of car as a remembrance.
Did he pass away shortly after, or?
Probably, a year and a half later, Drew?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little before
Or a couple
Luftgekuhlt
years?
4, I think. No, Luftgekuhlt 5 in between. This is the way I manage time.
Well, but at least currently speaking,
yeah.
he helped with your
Yeah,
first
huge
car
amount.
and your last car.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that is just the coolest. Were you close with your dad? I don't mean to go there, but I was close with mine. So I'm curious.
Yes and no. It was,
Yeah, that's not. I think that nails it.
yeah.
That's it.
I mean, my mom and I think my wife kind of look at it that early on, my dad was so career driven, and it was such a competitive and intense career in neurosurgery of all things. There wasn't a lot of home life with him being home.
Right.
When I was like in elementary school, in high school, when I started getting interested in cars and photography and stuff, we started spending more time together. He would make the occasional effort and have the time, like when I was in Boy Scouts, he'd go on some of the backpacking trips with us.
Oh, wow.
So there was that kind of connection, but the rest of it was career. And I mean, there was more often than not times where we'd be sitting at home at having dinner and the phone would ring and it'd be an emergency and Dad would have to go off to the hospital and we wouldn't see him for a day. I mean, that became the running gag
Yeah.
in our house, just almost without exception. Every year when we'd get ready to go on vacation, the night before we'd get ready to leave, the phone would ring and my dad would have to go in and it'd be like an all-night case. He'd be doing surgery all night. He'd get home like 6 or 7 in the morning and then we'd head off for
Oh, my
vacation the next
Lord.
day.
Your dad was a trooper.
So-
Yeah.
I'm just picturing summer rental, but after doing neurosurgery for 9 hours the night
Yeah,
before.
he was hardcore, very dedicated, passionate surgeon, very highly skilled. I got to see him actually do a couple surgeries.
Really, from the observation, there was some sort of a.
Well, actually, in the OR, I was scrubbed, but I was out of the sterile zone.
Oh, well, you're qualified, of course. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So I got to see my dad and his partner after 32 years of them being in practice, actually do a back surgery.
Wow.
Which was way cool.
That's pretty cool.
I asked about your relationship just because I'm so fond and slightly jealous. My dad passed away when I was young, of your guys' relationship of father and son, and having these mutual interests and opportunities to go adventure and activity together. Are you guys? You seem very appreciative of, because you've been there before and you've lost the father and the whole bit. Are you? You seem to be very aware and present and in the moment. Is that something you ever think about? The fact that you're getting to this opportunity to spend so much time with your dad doing similar things?
Definitely. I think that was kind of a big motivator in the beginning to really get involved with it. Obviously, it's something he's very passionate about. And so that kind of threw me into the foray and allowed me to learn from him and all the shared experience that he's had. Yeah. And I think it's been cool because he's obviously given so much to me just in general. And then on top of that, the Porsche related stuff. So to have a random opportunity to find ways to kind of show it to him in a different light. To bring him to different events where there's people that I'm introducing him to versus just simply him plugging me into the community.
Generational.
And just the give and take. I remember, I've talked with him about it before, at Luftgekuhlt 5 when we were staging the day before the event happened. He joined me as my photography assistant, which was pretty fun.
Love it.
I just wanted to bring him along for this to see it. And all of these very, very important historic Porsches were just lined up in the back as they were staging things. Pat and the whole team were moving stuff around. But there was no one around there.
You said 5? This is at the lumber.
Yeah, this was at the previous. But we did this as well at the most recent one at
6.
Universal in the back studio. But we were just standing there, the two of us, just by ourselves, just looking at these amazing cars. And I was taking photos, but at the same time, just looking over at him. And he was just quiet, just seeing, soaking it in. Oh my God, Bruce Canepa's 935. It's just sitting there. There's no one around it.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
No ropes, no nothing. Just go up and touch it.
So it's a cool, that. Obviously at this point I'm just a medical student, so I can't give a lot yet and do it pay it forward in that sense. But finding ways.
I can't wait to see what you do when you can, because your attitude is so good and you give so much. If you don't think you are, you're wrong, and you should realize that. You're awesome.
Appreciate it.
You must know that at some level, right?
I'm trying. There's always you always want to do more, of course.
Yeah.
It's that.
Yeah.
But you take comfort in knowing that you're trying to do something and maybe you're improving lives and whatever, but
yeah, confidence in being a good person is nice too. I think that you guys fall into that category. All right, we're way late, of course, in general, but I would like to know from both of you, if money were no object, as well as availability. Money and availability, no object. Your favorite Porsche, and what Porsche would you want to own?
Man.
Money and availability, no object.
You want to go first? I'm sure you've been thinking about this for a very long time.
There's no wrong, you know what I mean? For me, it's a bare bones something or other. I don't even go special. So,
there's so many epic Porsches out there, and having been fortunate to be exposed to so many different ones, I don't know, maybe
nobody's going to hold you to this either.
No. The one that really sort of cemented the deal for me would have been the original 911R in '67.
Heck yeah.
Because that was
business.
Yeah, that was the car. And then in '73, the one that really got my attention was the Carrera RS. Those two, up to that point, were just these are the coolest Porsches around.
Yeah. Yeah. What did Seinfeld say about the RS, the '73 RS? What happens when when people get together at the perfect time to make the perfect thing at the perfect way, whatever,
it just feels right.
Yeah, meaning that it's just all the planets aligned, and it was time for this amazingness to happen.
That Carrera RS was the car. It was the perfect 911.
Have you ever driven one?
No,
I haven't either. Not a real one. That I'll tell you what, though, that Eric Wilson's car you mentioned earlier, even though it's got a modern '89 motor in it, Carrera motor. That car is just so there that I have to imagine it's similar to what a real one would be like. You know what I mean? It doesn't drive like a new car. He did everything right.
Oh, yeah.
But it's all just so dialed.
It was amazing. I watched him and took some photos over at Button Willow as he was racing
on the track.
And he was one of the few that kept going when it was raining. And
No
mind you,
kidding.
I just finished The Art of Racing in the Rain. It's like the emotions were flowing. I was feeling this. And just, it was so cool to see.
He's probably has good tires on that too, but the car is
Yeah.
just so stinking dialed that I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah.
He's so great. That's
Definitely.
awesome. All right, what about you?
I was thinking about that. I would be very content with just an early A coupe. I've always loved like a silver with red interior. Just like I think like Pat Long's Western or the Wester.
Yeah.
His like just patina A coupe would be awesome. But I think
totally agree with you.
if I had to pick like a dream one, probably a 904. I think it's just like given like the time period. Bootsy was creating the 901 at that point and the 904.
And it's a little weird.
Yeah, it's such an elegant shape. I think just the power of it, the fact there was the 4-cylinder first, then they just continued to engineer it to a 6, and then they even had a few 8s. Like,
Did they really?
they actually had a few
my
8s. But just in general, I think.
And
Thought
what
it was
is
beautiful.
Zwart's 11 car? Is that a 906?
He's a 906.
906.
Yeah.
Okay, that's with the bigger wheel arches. And everything.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Man, good answer. I think the 66 is in your future.
I hope
The
so.
912. I can
hope
see.
so.
I can
It'll
see
be
you
fun to
driving
see you
that car
driving around
Yeah.
LA and
All the big stupid
really
grin the
can.
entire time.
yeah.
I really can.
So will I.
Can't believe-
As I wave at you and so proudly. I'm so
I'll just like,
excited
jump
to
the
see
dog
it.
leg and just, I'll be happy regardless.
Time-wise, we're pretty much out of time. But is there anything else specifically that you guys want to throw in there, or pepper in, or talk about?
I mean, I'll talk later, but I wanted to hear about your lives and everything. I haven't seen you in a while.
Well, this is it. This is what we do. You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
kind of live our lives publicly these days,
Yeah.
which is new for us. So this is what we do. It's you know what I mean. There isn't a
Yeah.
whole lot of secret behind the scenes. It's kind of like, well, we're here during the week and we're at Breakfast Club on Fridays,
Nice.
and you see us at the events on the weekends. So
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
That's true.
But thank you
Thank
for
you.
that. Thank you both for
Well,
being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
I
Yeah,
hope that you both come
appreciate
back because I know that there's so many stories that we even started and we didn't get to on the show. So
Oh yeah, like when we met Dr. Porsche and all the stuff at the factory. And
look at you. He's
There-
punching
there's a
up the
lot-
next
I already
episode.
got them all in my
punching
head
up the
that
next
he has.
episode.
Yeah,
Well, let's make a list next time, and I'll make sure to get to them.
done.
Yeah.
Chris, thank you so much for coming and
Well,
sharing.
thank you.
It's
It
awesome.
means a lot to us that you came in and are sharing.
Well,
it's very
the-
cool.
I appreciate the venue for sharing with the Porsche community.
I was going to say Ray Schaefer. In fact, good time to bring this up because I wasn't going to get to this today, but since we got a package from Porsche Corporate the other day,
No way.
Oh,
and from our good friend
my
Ray Schaefer.
There you go.
There you
Way
go.
cool.
With the,
Stamp.
we didn't get the stamp at Luftgekuhlt, so there you go.
That's
He
awesome.
sent us one. There
Excellent.
Ray Schaefer, you're
he's,
awesome.
He's really sweet. When I saw him at Luftgekuhlt 6, I probably came off as such a weird person because I was in the zone right in the early morning. He walked by.
You're working. You were working that day.
But I saw him and just wanted to say something. I don't even quite remember what I said. It was like word vomit.
Mr.
but-
Sandman.
Mr. Schaefer, you're good, man. I'm sorry.
I brought that up specifically because of the community aspect and the forum. And he, every time he sends us a message or a new video to play on the show, he's, thank you for actually creating a place for the community to get together. And you are bringing people together. And it's like hearing things like that and what you just said
Yeah.
are the reasons that we do this. I mean, I have my own childhood thing, and we have our own issues that we're trying to, support and everything. But really, it is about what you said: giving back to the community and bringing people together.
Yeah, it's the people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, that's all we got, right?
It's a good group, and you guys are a big part of it. So it's nice to hear you guys and
And so are you
get the
guys.
Thank you.
stories.
We love you.
Thank you.
Let's see. All right, tomorrow. This is it. Today's Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. Oh wait, gosh, I'm all over the place, you guys. I'm sorry. Social media. Can't forget the social media. You guys are both such fantastic photographers. Everybody should see your pictures.
Oh,
All right, where can we find you on social media?
At
Porsche's.
Porsche's. Pseudo-phonetic, whatever you want to call it.
It's Porsche, no E-U-H-H-S or something
Yeah.
like that.
It's
Yeah,
a
you'll find it. It'll come up.
Porsche's.
And what about you, Chris?
At Chris Florin.
He's right to the point. He's direct.
Yep. No mystery.
That was
That is the greatest.
incredible.
All right. Thank you, guys. Let's see. Mrs. Ryan, tomorrow is Breakfast Club, and it's going to be a big one. The 914, I don't want to say the 914 Club because I think it's a bunch of people, but I know 914 Rubber and Porsches and VWs is going to be there. It's going to be a big one. Newcomb's Ranch, they open at 9. We get there around then, and we leave around 12 when they close. I don't know if people know that. They only open on Fridays for us because of the rock slide. So it's kind of exciting.
Really?
Yeah. They don't.
Wow.
They used to be open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now they only open Saturday, Sunday. Whatever. They're open. They're open to everybody on Fridays, but the reason they're open is because we all do this. So
Ooh.
we highly encourage people to come up there and
I
buy
want to
some
come.
food. Buy some
Maybe
food,
I'll
get some
I'll
coffee.
drive the TT up tomorrow and just join you guys.
Oh wow,
Hide
that
in
would
the
be
back with the
awesome.
TT.
Great.
That would be fun.
And with that, next week we've got some great guests. Jamie Lynn Siegler is going to be here on Tuesday. I know that. She, you know her as Meadow Soprano from The Sopranos. Also, she is a sufferer of MS, like Mrs. Ryan. So it'll be really nice to have her in here. And some more people next week. I don't really remember. But,
Comedians fill in.
Richard,
the rest
Richard
of them.
Chasler's going to be here, and John Wan.
Yeah. From
Good
Kevin.
stuff. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Sorry. We'll work on the normalization later. I love you, Mrs. Ryan. We love you, Florins. Love everyone
you.
home. Please love one another. Have a great weekend. See you later.